Alright guys, next up is, before I install this back in my ABS upgrade, is the blower. It's extremely dirty, so I'm going to attempt to disassemble this and just give it a nice washing. Right, these shorter bolts are towards the center. These two shorter ones are in the centers. Longer ones on the outside. Here's what these bolts look like. See some nice dirt in there. Here's a look. Looks like it should be pretty easily. I can even clean it like this, but I might disassemble it even further. Yeah, I think I will. Let's do these. Take this bracket off. Okay, you know, to line these up on reassembly. And then I just think we just take these housing up, separate the housing. And you're gonna have to buy new gasketing if you take on this job. There's a longer one down here. Need a screwdriver. Okay. So I think the only thing holding together is going to be this gasket material. I'm just going to tear it off. And hope that I can find something similar. Alright, now you can take this off, and this comes out like that. And I'm just going to leave this like this. You can take it apart even further, but you can access everything, so I'm just going to clean it like this. This one's going to need a little bit of more detail cleaning, so I'm going to grab like a cotton swab or something and clean this up, and just remember to add a little bit more grease in there because this moves back and forth. Okay, and since this one has electronics in it, I'm just gonna give it a wipe down with a damp cloth. I don't want to spray it down or anything like that. I might blow it out with some compressed air. What I think I'm gonna end up doing is just using a toothbrush to get in here. Ooh, just hitting this thing. This black junk's coming out. So I'll be at this for a little bit. I'll catch you back up when I'm done. All right, that looks pretty good. As good as that's gonna get. I did try to unscrew this nut and it did come off, but the plastic looks like it's kind of pressed fit on the stud, and I didn't want to just pry it off just in case. So this worked out. It only took about 10 minutes. Okay, I have everything cleaned up. The fan looks pretty good. So I'm gonna reassemble. And before I reassemble, I have some white lithium grease for the areas where this thing pivots. And I also bought some expandable seal. So this is 1 inch wide. You do need 1/2 inch on the outside. So I'm probably gonna cut this in half. I think this will work pretty good. So let's go ahead and just apply a little bit of grease. Not too much. I'm not replacing this one yet. I might take out the blower later and replace it. This one, it sits in here, and there's a lot of clearance, as you can see from right here, but then this vent moves, and you can see that it moves along this track right here, and when it hits the peak, it does push up right up against this piece right here and makes a seal. So I'm not quite sure how thick this is supposed to be because it's really flattened down. So if I use something like this, it would be way too thick and this thing wouldn't function. So I'm just gonna see. Right now it's kind of, the downside is that it's deteriorating, so some of this fuzz is kind of blowing off, but I'm gonna leave it for now until I find a suitable replacement for that part. So, and then I think there's a little bit of grease on this top piece. As you can see, there's a little bit of a touch of grease on there. I don't really know how much that's supposed to be. Not too much. So that should do it for the grease. I'm gonna set that aside. Well, I guess I could assemble that part right now. Let's do that. All right, so you just want to make sure that this cross piece goes right in the middle, and then this functions, moves up and down freely. And then this piece is going to go like this with the wires going that way. And I'm just going to line it up so it looks like it was closed like that, or open, however that is. Okay, and so all of the bolts are the same except for the two on this unit, this piece right here. I removed these two and mentioned that they were shorter, but you actually don't need to remove those because they're not holding anything in. I don't know what they're there for. They kind of just go in here, and I don't know. I guess it holds the plastic to this bottom piece, but you didn't need to take those out. So all of the bolts are the same except for these three, which have the flange on it, and those hold the very top cover on. So everything else is these bolts, and so we're gonna go ahead and use those. so I got these 3 bolts in. Might as well put this cover on. And then you route the wiring down and between these 2 little tabs right here where it's gonna go out this hole in the cover. And then you slide the cover on and then grab 2 more bolts for the top. And then 1 more on the side right here. Before we bolt this piece in, let's bolt the 2 halves together. And there's one that's kind of hidden away. It's in this crevice. And then last one is right here. Okay, now we can bolt this bracket in place. All right, so this is all together. We got the bracket in, we got the 2 halves in, all the bolts securing it. And note that this loop with the rubber loop it doesn't match up to any of these 3 holes is opposite of the wire, and it lines up with this piece right here. So we're going to drop this in like this. And then the cover goes on. And make sure the wiring harness fits in place. And we're going to use the flange bolts now. Flange screws. Okay, and then last but not least, we're going to put this guy on. Only goes in one way, and the last 2 bolts, last 2 screws go right here. All right, so that is it, and we're going to route this cable like this, like that. Put this one right here, route this one. That and like that. All right, and it is assembled, and now we just need to put the rubber seal on this surface and this surface. So again, these are about 1/2 inch. So let's try the smaller side first. Once again, I bought this Frost King brand, so I'm going to measure like this. Kind of just cut it a little bit bigger. And then again, I'm gonna cut this in half. Okay, so I cut it in half and I'm going to apply it now. I'm gonna start halfway through one side. Actually, I will start halfway through here. And I should mention, you should make sure that this is clean. I mean, I just cleaned mine, but if you don't clean it, this is not going to work out very well. Okay. Just gonna give it a good compression so it make sure the adhesive takes. All right, so that should be good for that. And now I'm just gonna repeat for the side. If you really wanted to, you could glue these two pieces together, but I think it's gonna be fine. It's gonna expand a little bit. Cut this one at an angle so it could kind of seal up a little bit. Okay, so I don't know how well this is going to work out, but take this with a grain of salt. You got to use your best judgment. Use whatever you feel is the right product to use. This material says that it is resistant to bugs and vermin, non-staining, UV stable, will not dry out or become brittle, good thermal and sound insulator. I hope that's going to be okay, but you never know. I couldn't find this gasket OEM so separately from the unit, so I'm not sure if it is available or not, but this is what I'm using. I'll update the channel if anything goes wrong.